What's up, guys? It's your boy Jericho. Back for a random kind of vlog in the sense that I didn't know I would ever need to talk about this, but first thing I want to do actually is show you. I rolled this yarn into a ball and then I was using it, and the way that it unwound has a belly button. So that's really great for me, personally, in my life. But this is, God, it's such a weird fucking story. And not just because I was on acid, but this is the story of the first time I did acid and how it all fucking went awry and fell apart in a way. But I would like to, disclaim that with in mind that I had never done it before, I only did like half of the little paper because I wanted to make sure that my body wasn't gonna react poorly to it or I wasn't gonna like it, because I'm very, very cautious about things like that. And yeah. And also, like, if you're a child, don't do this at home and etc. And I'm not here to promote, I'm just talking about my experience. And yeah. So I woke up one morning, like any other morning, around 10:30-ish, because it's Rona, and, we sleep in. But my partner was like, hey, because I get up, go out on the couch, chilling for like a couple minutes, and he's like, hey, I don't have anything going on today. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, do you want to try acid with me? And I was like, fuck it, sure. And so we both do half. And it's fine. Like, our downstairs neighbor, who's like a close friend and stuff, like, knew and all that stuff. So it was like not like an unsafe environment. We were just chilling at home with the pets. And right as soon as I start to feel it, which was not a bad feeling, like, I felt okay, the former acid plug shows up to our house. And for backstory, we've known this person for, well, I didn't know her personally. What I do know is my partner used to work with her, and she was always really cool. Wasn't a big deal. Like, she smokes pot, she just chill, like, super fun, we thought, and it was not a big deal. She came over and was like, yo, what's up? And she would drop in periodically, in and out. She always seemed like she had somewhere to be, like, not in a bad way, like, she just, was living life, doing stuff, and that was fine. And I knew that it was gonna be a weird day, not because I was feeling the acid, but because she hugged me, and she never touches me. Nobody really ever touches me. I'm very selective about that, but also we're both LGBT, so sometimes it's just a thing where it's like you need a hug, and I'm cool with it because life's stressful right now, so I am fine. But I knew it was gonna be weird, and she was hugging me, and I was like, hey, how are you? And she was like, I'm good, how are you? I'm like, I'm good, I'm on acid. And she was like, oh, and she plops herself down on the fucking couch, which also seemed like, I don't know, at this point I was like, oh, is she just like gonna ask us how we like it, maybe, something, something, something. She sits down, immediately starts talking in circles about how a waitress at Waffle House called her a bitch. And she was like, and then something else about this bitch on her block named Linda. I don't fucking know. Starts talking about this, starts talking about how recently, like a week or so before that, her mother had supposedly stolen her purse, took all of her money. It was a bad time. And she started talking about that a little bit, and for the most part, like, it didn't bother me. I wasn't stressed about it, She was just kind of venting, but venting in circles. which normally did not happen. But, you know, I figured she might be stressed. And she was like, hey, can I get a hit of that? And, you know, since she was the plug, we figured, you know, it's cheap, we get it cheap, it's a mutual thing, and it's like, yeah, why not? So she has one. I don't know if she takes it or not, because I wasn't looking. I was trying to watch TV at this point because she was talking a lot, like, constantly, just above the TV level over a show that we were watching, and, like, she immediately, like, started explaining the show, and, like, she didn't need to do that, but she kind of was, like, commandeering everything, and it was strange, and I don't know how long we really sat there, but then eventually she was like, can I get another hit? I'm not really feeling it. And it was the type of situation that we knew that she took acid more than we did, and, you know, more experience with it, so it was like, I mean, you know what you want, and, like, you know how to do things, so sure. And then she got into more and more of the circles, and she just... This is where it gets hairy for me as a trans person who doesn't pass well, because she wanted to watch Avatar because she just started getting into it, and I had been into it for a long time. This is not related to the trans thing, this was also just what was happening. There was a lot going on at the time, and she was talking over that, and I started to get into it because I already liked that show, and then she wanted to change it. She didn't want anyone to do anything that she couldn't talk through the whole time, because she didn't want anyone to be, like, not focused on her. And she was like, I didn't come over here to say that I'm not a woman. And I'm like, okay, that was never brought up, but we're on acid, I feel ya. We are gender affirming in this home. And then she was like, it's not that I'm not a woman, it's just that I just learned from the Waffle House waitress that I'm a bitch. And she just kept going on and over and over and over, and she started to get very, very, like, as time went on, very picky with her hands, very fidgety, very, like, she had this Apple Watch, she was, like, honestly breaking it, like, just hammering on it with her hands. And, she started talking about it, and she was like, I hacked this last night. And I was like, what do you mean, like, you jailbroke it? And she's like, no, I hacked this last night. And then she was like, and Zuckerberg gonna know my name. And then soon after that, she was like, I don't understand my mom. My mom says I'm on heroin. I'm not on heroin. And I have limited... Sorry about that. My phone just did a thing. I don't know why it needed to happen. But, she was like, I'm not on heroin, this, that, and the other. And from my limited experience... which, it was limited, but it was bad, but it's also a story for another day. Although heroin people that I knew shot up, and I didn't really, like, you know, she didn't look like she had shot up, and she wasn't acting like she had shot up, she had no, like, marks, and all, you know, like, the stuff that you would think of if you don't really hang out with heroin people, like, she didn't have any obvious signs of that. She seemed kind of distressed at that point, and I was like, I don't think you're on heroin. She's like, I know you don't think you're on heroin, and I also know that you think that, she was like, said something like, I love how you think you're gonna remember all of this later, which is weird, because I've done hallucinogens before. You don't black out. That's not what it is. But then she was like, she started going on that, and she was like, I love how you think you're going to remember this later, but it's fine, everything's fine, and I'm like, I didn't think things weren't fine. And then she started getting on this, she got fixated on trust. Like, I need to know that I can trust you guys. And we're like, first of all, we are on acid, and we have been doing business with you and letting you into our home, so we thought that you could trust us, and we thought we could trust you. And she was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know I could trust you. Da-da-da-da. I didn't know. I feel so good knowing that I can trust you. And I'm like, okay, that seems fine. But then she would loop back around to the Waffle House and Linda, and then she started talking about guns, which is when we both were very like, what? She was like, I don't want to be down there. down on the block with an empty shotgun, waving it in the air, fighting with Linda. And I'm like, why would you fight with an empty gun? I still don't know who Linda is. And I still don't know why you got beef with Linda. She's probably some old shrew. Like, I don't know. And it just got intense to the point where she was yelling at my partner, who was just sitting there like, I mean, he had handled things, like, very well, considering that, like, she was being very out of pocket, kind of disrespectful the whole time to him, like, really shitty. And eventually she literally was like, could you just go? And she was, like, literally asking him to leave. And he was like, I mean, yeah, I guess I'll go see Mitch for a minute, because we knew it was getting weird, so he went to do that. And it was just, like, a thing. And then we were alone. And while we were alone, and she was like, can I smoke a cigarette in your house? We don't smoke cigarettes. And I was like, no. But we have an ashtray outside. And it was a nice day. It's not like it was torrential or, like, super hot. It was, like, very nice outside. And we have a deck, and it's fine. And she was like, she smoked, like, half of one. And she was just like, sometimes a bitch just needs a hug. Sometimes a bitch just needs a cigarette. And she had been saying the thing about the hug earlier, too, and it was weird, and I figured it was because she hugged me. But then she was like, sometimes a bitch just needs a hug. I just learned that I'm a bitch from the fucking Waffle House, bitch. And she just kept going on and on about that shit. And eventually it got to the point where, like, I was getting really stressed out, and I could tell that our animals were getting stressed out by her energy. Especially our dog, because our dog comes from trauma, so we try to not have awful energy people around. To put it nicely, like, she just doesn't like certain vibes, and it bothers her, and we love our dog, so we do our best to take care of her. And it was just like, sometimes a bitch just needs a cigarette. And then after that, she smoked, came back in, was on and on and on about the cigarettes at me, was very intensely, like, looking at me the whole time, and I was just trying to be positive. I was just like, you know, we like it when you come over, you know, you always, you know, if you're ever stressed, you can come and decompress here, etc. I was trying to be very nice, especially because I don't really drink very often, because I used to self-medicate with alcohol. And my partner was an alcoholic for many years, so we don't drink. And she was supposedly trying to quit drinking. And I feel like I hear knocking at the door. Hold on. It was nothing. Where was I? Oh, she was trying to quit drinking, and that's part of when she had started to come over and stuff. So we tried to make it like a place where you can be, you know, like if you need to be in an alcohol-free space, we just don't really keep it at home. So she was like, I feel like if I had a nip, I could just make it through the rest of the week. And it's one of those things where it's like, people say that a lot, and don't really do it, just because sometimes it just feels good to say it, even if you're not going to indulge, because it's like, if you let yourself say it, you can move forward. And I usually assume that that's what people are doing, because that's always what I did, which is wrong, because a lot of people really just plan to go and get it. And she was like, she was also doing this thing where in between the cycles, she would talk about a random person that we all knew. She was linking people we knew and their hobbies, their interests, their partners with, like, you know, he's gonna drink himself to death because of this person who she's never met. Or it all leads back to Reaganomics. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, what is Reaganomics? I didn't really ask. In my head, I was just like, what does Reaganomics have to do with Linda? And, like, Zuckerberg knowing your name? I don't know. She had this thing, and then she started talking about her GoFundMe, because she had a GoFundMe for her transition. And a lot of people we knew donated to that. And for some reason, she randomly set her goal on there to, like, $10 million, and they took away her GoFundMe. And I don't know if she thought that was cute or funny or what happened, but she was like, "Oh, my money's gone. All the donated money's gone." And she was like fucking upset, and she was like, and it's Zuckerberg and the fucking, and it was like, okay, but you said it this way, and now you think that your hacked Apple Watch is going to get that money back for you. It was very bizarre. And she asked me if I could go downstairs because she knew that our neighbor, his house was filled with booze because he's a brewer and his roommate drinks. And stop notifying me of things. Anyway, and I'm just like, I know their house better than that. I know that the roommate who drinks a lot literally has not been there most of Rona season. And even before that, he was hardly ever home because his hobby is to just fuck off into the woods. So I was like, I mean, yeah, maybe he does. I'm not really sure because I was, lying because I wasn't going to try and enable her. But at that point, my partner had come back upstairs. And I agreed to go downstairs, partially because I just wanted to get away from her. Because at this point in the timeline, we had been sitting there, like, she and she had just been talking and talking and talking, and misgendering me the whole time, mostly, which I assumed was because she was distressed. But, like, normally, if it happened, she would fix herself and just, like, correct it, because it was new. And then this time she really wasn't. And she was like, look, when I call you a girl, it doesn't mean that. And I'm like, okay, if we're in the gay bar and people are throwing around girl, what did that girl just say, girl? Like, fucking, I just quoted Todrick. But you know what I mean. There's a certain type of way that a certain type of gay can say it. And I know that it doesn't mean anything. At that point, it doesn't even seem gendered. But whenever she says it, it was always very girl. Like, at my face. And I'm not a fan of that. So I did bring it up at one point, like, right before this happened. I was like, you do realize I am a guy, right? And she was like, yes. Yes, and I didn't mean it that way. I am not quite as woke as you kids. I think she's, like, not even much older than my partner. I think I fixed the sounds. I hope I fixed the sounds. So at this point, she had been gaining traction throughout the day with misgendering me. And usually she would catch herself and fix it, but today she was not. And it was when she was slowly, like, bringing up more gun stuff for some reason. Like, talking about, there's this local gun shop. I don't go there because it looks very old white man. And she was talking about going down there, flirting with the guy's wife to try and get some backdoor deals, and supposedly she'd already done this. And I'm like, that's sketchy. And I don't know that I believe that happened. But then she also started talking about, like, Reaganomics again, and back into her weird cycle of whatever. And at one point, even before this, when she was talking to my partner, she was like, you like Wu, don't you? And he was like, yeah, I like Wu-Tang. And she was just like, I know that. I know you like Wu. I know you like Wu because I know that you don't like Tupac. And he was like, because he never said that. Never once did he say that. He still hasn't really said that I know of. He's never really voiced an opinion either way, but she just kept going on and on and on, and she was like, I know you all are like a Wu-Tang house, you are not like a Tupac house. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. We're all white here. So what does that mean to you? And never could figure that one out. But she was going on when my partner was downstairs about how she wasn't as hashtag woke whatever, but then she was like, but here, I know that you're Jewish, and I know that you're indigenous, and I'm here to tell you that the patriarchy is over. It is a matriarchy now. And I'm like, I'm here to tell you that in our neighborhood, that's not the case for anyone really, because we don't live the good life. I didn't grow up with my culture, and it sucks, but I know that she was trying to, like, play into that somehow for some reason. It was really bizarre. It was like she was trying to get on my good side, which previously she had been on. And I didn't really like that, and she brought it up, like, in conjunction with misgendering me, and she was like, you don't have to worry about it. Like, it's fine. Because patriarchy's over, so you don't have to hide. And I'm like, are you on some turf shit right now and you're trans? At me? Like, I get on a certain level that when you experience dysphoria, sometimes it is hard to imagine that anybody could want to be the gender that people mistake you as. But that is really no reason to project your internalized transphobia onto others. Like, you have got to check yourself. Anyway, it started to really, like, that actually did kind of piss me off, because I'm like, you have motives, I've known you've got motives, you're acting super out of pocket in my house, like, what do you want here? Like, I'm on acid, I don't know how to handle this. So I go downstairs to our neighbors, and I'm like, she asked me to come down here because she says that she knows you have alcohol and she needs a little bit of it, even though she's trying to not have alcohol because your roommate lives here and because you're a brewer. And our neighbor's like, well, that's a foolish thought. Like, he's never here, and I don't really, like, I drink at the brewery where I work. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I also came down because I have no idea what's going on. So I chilled on the couch for a while. Pet the cat. It was fine. Eventually I went back up because I heard yelling and crashing. My partner was here at the time. Did not like what I was hearing because my partner's not a violent person. I know that he doesn't like fights, and I knew that she was being really intense, and I just didn't know what was happening. So I started to go upstairs. I go upstairs, I get to around the corner to where our door is. She's in the doorway, the door is open. She slams it shut. I go back downstairs, I tell the neighbor what happened. Right before this happened, actually, I did forget, like, she took a cigarette, and, like, after I told her to smoke outside, and she asked, like, 3 more times after that, and then she emptied a cigarette on our coffee table. Rude. And, then was like, don't make me do this ever again. Like, this is a waste of his. I'm like, also earlier you just said you were trying to stop smoking on top of trying to stop drinking, so I don't know what your problem is. But then, like, eventually she did just light up a cigarette in the house, and I didn't say anything because I was kind of scared of her at that point. So anyway, all this is going on. I go back downstairs. I'm like, Mitch, this is what's going on. He's like, okay, we'll come inside. So I come inside. Suddenly, we hear more and more loud noises. It sounds really bad. She comes downstairs. She does a knock-in. It's like, boom, 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 boom. But then, like, immediately, as he was going to get the door, it was like, like in a pattern, like a weird, repetitive. She was just like, just going and going. He opens the door and he walks out and he closes the door behind him, and I hear him say, what the fuck are you doing? And she goes, do I have your attention now? And he goes, yeah, you have my attention. What the fuck do you want? And, like, we have all in our entire house building, like, have known her. So it's not like a stranger just saying, what the fuck do you want? But also that's super rude to do that on the door, so I wouldn't really judge anybody for that. And she just starts going on. She's like, I know you have alcohol in there. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, if I don't get some alcohol, you are going to end up like your buddy upstairs bleeding out on the floor. Which would be my partner. Mitch locks the door behind him. Well, it had been locked when he went out. Runs upstairs because he goes, sit down. Runs upstairs. Comes back down and she starts talking. He goes, no. No, I'm not speaking with you. You led me to believe that my best friend was upstairs dying and that you had hurt him. I want you off my goddamn property. And it turned into this whole big thing. Eventually, the voice is lowered, and I think my partner at this point had gotten her to go back upstairs because we were trying to not... We have neighbors with kids. Okay, so, like, we're not trying to be like that. And At this point, I'm just so tired. And then it's quiet, and Mitch comes back, and then we hear a lot of noise again. They both come downstairs. My partner's bleeding all over his leg, and he says, we have got to go to the hospital. So they go to the hospital. Nikki gets out of the car. My partner and my roommate drive the fuck away from that crazy lady. Craziness is just happening all around. It's wild. Like, it's fucking too much to handle for a first acid trip ever. Which I will also, disclaimer, not promoting, but I will say this whole experience, the acid didn't do me dirty one time. I didn't see a dragon about to eat my head. Nothing was... The acid itself felt okay. Like, I was vibing on it. But the rest of it was just really bad. So what had happened was she started punching our walls and, like, freaking out and squaring up. Like, she was gonna try and fight my partner. Which upset the dog. Which upset the cat. And then she tried to muscle her way between the two animals that weren't fighting. They were both just stressed out. And then punched the wall again. The cat latched onto her because he was scared. And then my partner got in between them because he didn't want her to get hurt. And the cat didn't... He was basically just very instinctual in that moment because we found him on the streets. He's an alley cat that agreed to come inside. He latches onto his leg and just fucking is just going. And it's like... Oh, it's so bad. But it didn't get infected because we took care of it. But yeah, so that was a big, big, big awful thing. Our cat... Honestly, that was almost a month ago now. Our cat has only recently fully calmed down to the point where we feel safe having people over. And so what had happened when I was downstairs, from what I was told, was she had went in our kitchen and started rifling through our stuff, and she was looking for booze. She was like, I just need a nip, I just need a nip. She went so far as to accuse Pat, of lying to her. And he was like, well, then what's this? And what she held up was a bottle of red wine vinegar. And he was like, that's fucking vinegar. And she's like, then why is it in this da-da-da-da-da bottle? And, I will tell you, the bottle has, a neck like this, and it goes to a bulb at the bottom. I will also tell you, it's fucking plastic, and in big letters it says vinegar on it. And so they were fucking arguing about that. And he was just trying to calm her down the whole fucking time. And she started punching, there's a dent in our bathroom wall because of this. And then she just kept saying, I'm not crazy, and I'm not on heroin, and my mom da-da-da-da-da-da. So at this point, she's gone. We don't know where she is. We are worried, though, because we aren't sure what she's going to do or say at the hospital. So everybody whose name she had in her mouth, we just let them know that if they see her, that she potentially needs help right now. And we don't really know what to do, and this is what happened. And we don't want... we didn't want anything bad to happen to her, but we also wanted her to stop doing that shit in our house. Go home and be that way. I don't know. She was just, going on and on. So anyway, we all get home. Well, I stayed at the house because when they left, our roommate drove them. And I didn't know if our front door was open. I didn't know if my animals were hurt. So I was like, I will stay here. Because they left our apartment unlocked and the downstairs one. So, I checked on everything. And I will tell you that since then, I have not considered doing acid, and I will tell you that the reason isn't because of the acid. The reason is because every night since then, I have woken up at 3 a.m. with nervous guts. And it has been a month. And I will also tell you that we all discussed that, we hope she gets the help that she needs. But a lot of people that know her are like, no, we've thought she was on heroin for a long time. And I was like, but she didn't have any marks. And they're like, we think she snorts it. And I didn't know that you could snort heroin. Either way, I'm not being accusatory, I'm just saying that a lot of people with more experience with heroin addicts than me, one of them being my partner, whose sister stole literally everything from him, including guns, you know, he knows about some stuff. And until I stop waking up with nervous guts, I really don't feel good about anything. And also, she's already tried to reconnect with all of us. And I'm not saying that that was wrong, but when we were all talking about her getting the help she needs and how we hoped that that would, like, because eventually her girlfriend found her because she left the hospital. And we got her, like, it was like a whole thing. We were all just like, I don't want to hear from her for like a year because it's just not worth it. We all just needed time, and she's not even giving us that. And what she did was, I didn't read the message, my partner did, but she blamed everything that happened on one of the mental illnesses that my partner has, like, that she has it. And I will tell you that the mental illness that she was blaming all of her bad behavior on doesn't suggest that any of that would ever happen. So we don't believe her. We don't believe that that's what caused it. What we think happened was, to be fair, she was like being very aggressive when me and my partner were together the whole time. We think she was trying to split us both up so she could look through the house. We think also that she was trying to get us both out of the house. I also know from talking to people that when she was going on and on about how she had no money, when we got her bags and stuff back to her, like, in her purse, the whole front pocket was nothing but wads of 20s. And we think that it was the money from her GoFundMe. We think she just closed it out, and we think she was just running off to get heroin with it. Because at one point when she was talking about her GoFundMe, she was like, I don't know why they took it down, and she was like, it doesn't matter, I wasn't planning on getting that surgery anyway. She's like, I don't even care about that surgery. And what I thought that meant was, because I am new to looking into my surgical options, I thought that maybe in order to get your markers changed, maybe you had to have complete surgery in our state. I don't know. Some places are like that. And so I kind of linked it to that, but that was not the case. It was all bad. And that was my first experience with acid. See ya.